and yet I've lived all my adult life in the UK. It was very interesting hearing the speakers from the previous panel, actually, because there's a lot of resonance with myself. I grew up in a divided Germany. I was in London the day the wall came down. I came to Liverpool. I had a Greek Cypriot fiancé whose little brother was based in Nicosia on the Green Line, shouting to Ali, "Put your gun away." I've never actually been to Ireland apart from 6 hours in Dublin, but I grew up in the second, or not grew up, but I've lived for over 26 years in the second largest Irish city in the world after Chicago. So I do think that I've got a bit of an idea about the Irish mentality, and I'm going to do this slightly the other way around. No, I'm going to tell you a story at the end of some personal experiences of the Troubles. So today I'm here to tell you a little about the book, and I'm not here by myself, obviously. I've brought with me all the other contributors to the book. There's 150 of us, and of course we're also speaking for our children, many of whom are British citizens, many of whom have dual citizenship. We have situations like myself where my children don't know whether their mum's going to be allowed to continue living in the same country that they live in and where they hold the citizenship. Skype families are a thing, and yes, families are being split apart very, very literally and painfully. In Limbo is a collection of personal accounts by EU citizens living in Britain, and it reveals the practical and emotional turmoil we have experienced since the 2016 referendum. It gives a voice to just a small sample of the 3 million UK residents who hail from elsewhere in Europe and have often been treated in the political discourse as a depersonalised mass of migrants, which is actually and factually incorrect. As European directives on free movements refer to all EU nationals, British people included, as citizens, we are all equal and benefiting from the same rights. In contrast, our anthology reveals us as individuals whose lives have been interrupted, plunged into limbo by political events few could have anticipated. We are citizens at home in the European Union, and our book aims to inform and fight against prejudice by touching hearts and opening minds. Most people, even politicians, have little understanding of the situation non-British Europeans in the UK are facing as a result, as a result of the vote to leave the EU. And, well, it's 13 months ago now since we started our group on Facebook. Within a month, we had grown to over 1,000 members and are well over 2,200 now. And some of their candid testimonies were gathered between March and April 2017 and published on the first anniversary of the referendum. They show the many ways in which real lives have been affected by the outcome of the referendum. They illustrate the practical difficulties and the profound emotional stress that has been imposed on many people by this new political situation. I do have the book with me for sale as well. You can purchase it for just £8 and read all the stories yourself. I'm going to read out one of our testimonies from Ireland. This is the testimony by Roisin. I moved to Belfast in the late 80s to study science. Opportunities in Ireland were limited at the time, so I stayed in the UK, moving to London to study for my PhD. I have been working in research and as a lecturer since. I am married to a lovely Englishman who is a professor at a UK university, and we have 3 school-aged kids. Although I have no issues residing in the UK, I now hate living here. I find the climate since Brexit utterly regressive and insular. I can hardly believe that this country I once thought of as open-minded and outward-looking is hell-bent on a self-destructive path towards small-minded nationalism and protectionism. I am horrified by the xenophobia and racism towards others that I have seen and heard about. Although I have been contentedly living here and contributing to society for over 25 years, I have never really felt very Irish, just European. That was enough. For me, the EU is more important than individual nations. It is where I find my identity and culture. After much soul-searching, heartache, and therapy for me, we have decided to leave Britain and our lovely network of friends and neighbours, taking our kids out of their schools and head west to Ireland and the EU. My lovely British friends, who largely voted Remain, are puzzled and can't imagine why anyone would choose to leave Britain. A year ago, I would have laughed at this thought, but now I cannot bear the prospect of remaining here. But here we are. The house is on the market. In the summer, we will be leaving. In preparing to come here today, and obviously Roisin left last summer on her own little Brexodus. About 5 weeks ago, I went to a Brexodus farewell party to meet a lady I'd only ever met on Facebook, and to meet her in person for the first time. And I travelled all the way from Liverpool to Brighton on a whim, really, because I'd been watching her agonise on Facebook about their decision to leave. The many posts when she talked about crying yet again, the posts when she'd packed away all her Christmas decorations. Next time they will be unpacked in Germany. And some friends of hers very kindly put me and my daughter up, and they were Irish. A wonderful couple who came from Ireland to Brighton in 1970. They were young during the Troubles. They started one evening over a glass of wine. The lady started telling me her experiences of being 19 years old on a date with her lovely boyfriend, who's now her husband. They are an adorable couple, so sweet. And on the way home, being stopped by soldiers and ordered out of the car. And the next thing she knows, a soldier falls dead at her feet. They managed to get out of this situation. They were looked for. They had to go to the police. He was Protestant, she was Catholic. They had death threats. Finally, she had an auntie in Brighton, and she phoned her up. And she said, "Can my Joel come and live with you?" And auntie says, "Yes, sure, I'll help you out. When do you think he'll come over?" She said, "Tomorrow." Oh, like that, is it? And the way she said it and the way she tells the story, so very matter of fact, and well, Helen alluded to it before, and I'm sure she can underline that or illustrate that. It shows that that was their normal. It should never have been normal, and it should never become normal again to live with those kinds of divisions. And the peace in Northern Ireland is a huge achievement for humanity, but it's also very fragile. And frankly, it's one sucker punch away from exploding again, from, old rifts being torn open again. So it's very important that a solution is found to this. My personal idea is that, of course, Remain is the one really good idea to solve this. But I have also, as somebody who is in limbo and as somebody who's watched the UK government's behaviour over the last 23 months, being very polite here, I've come to the point where I'm happy to say, okay, fine, have your Brexit. Cut your nose off to spite your face, fine, whatever. But do not breach my human rights. The settled status we have been offered is a breach of human rights. I will lose the right to vote with settled status, and I'm not okay with that. So I do urge you all to have a look at the book, have a look at our blog, look out for our new book, and find out how our situations are unfolding, and maybe come on our side and help us to find a way through this. Thank you very much.